Well, with the first two Corvettes that I bought, I didn't study them real well. Basically, I knew that I wanted 6-speed manual transmissions in both of them, and that's what I bought. And I had a lot of fun driving my stick shift Corvettes. Something about the C7 generation just caught my fancy. And when they came out with the Z06 and I saw that first yellow one advertised, I thought, man, I've got to have me one of those things. And so I did buy this car in the spring of 2016. And a tough decision between the manual and the automatic, but the more I read about the automatic, I found out that they can just shift better than we can. So that's what I ended up buying, and it does make it a little more user-friendly for my wife to use and things like that. But one thing I've found about every car that gets, or every newer generation, more and more parts of the car are controlled by electronics, and this car is no different. And I would think probably 15 or 20 years from now we're going to be having a shortage of parts for some of the electronics on these cars. One thing I noticed about the automatic, and I think even the stick shift guys complain about it too a little bit, is there seems to be kind of a dead spot when the engine starts coming off of idle. And to solve that problem, a lot of the guys are using ported throttle bodies. So I've been studying on the Corvette for them quite a bit about them. And I bought this one right here from Tony Mammo. And so today I'm going to be taking the other throttle body off. I thought for fun I might go ahead and compare it with this one, get them side by side and do a little review. So just studying this new throttle body a little bit before I go over to the car to take the old one off. And it doesn't look like it's very complicated at all. There's 4 10mm bolts that go in those holes. That one there, that one there. There's one electrical connector. From the best of my ability to tell by studying elsewhere, you don't need to disconnect the battery before you do that. One thing I'd say, if you look at this connector right here, you can see this little locking tab right there. So that tells me that to get the old harness disconnected, I'm going to have to probably do something other than just give it a pull or I'll break it. So anyway, that's what looks like needs to be done. So over to the car now. Here's the stock GM throttle body. Came with the car. One of the 4 bolts and another one there that have to take off. Have to disconnect this duct leading to the air filter assembly. This is kind of hard to see, but down here is this electrical connector. And underneath it is what appears to be a red locking tab. I don't know how well you can see that. I put a mirror down there. There's a mirror right there, and you can see there's this red locking tab that's actually on the bottom side of this electrical connector right there. So I think that's the part you've got to pull back to probably allow the connector to come loose. So we're moving forward here. This little duct, took it loose with a flat screwdriver. You could also use a nut driver too, probably be better. There's enough room to wiggle it loose and get it out there to where this throttle body basically will unbolt and just come right straight out, so that's good. Had a little bit of a struggle with the electrical connector. There's so doggone many different types of these things, and you don't want to damage them for sure, but so it sits oriented like that. I pulled it out of the way so that you can see it now, but upside down, that little red safety needs to be pulled out, and once that's pulled out, it still won't come off unless you push down on this part right here. You can see that there's some slots on it, and that plastic will move, so pulling the red out allows a vacant space underneath there that when you push down on that, basically then it'll come off of that locking tab on the throttle body. So we're now ready to pull 4 bolts and pull the throttle body out. Well, I'm down now to taking the last cap screw out of the throttle body, and as I loosen it up, it's nice to see that it's not stuck on the engine. It's not an old car, you wouldn't expect it to be, but sometimes it's just nice knowing that it's going to come apart. So I'm going to turn off the camera, go ahead and finish the removal, and meet you over on the bench to take a look at the two of them together. Well, I got the two throttle bodies together on the bench here. I thought it might be interesting to take a look at them to really see what the differences are. The one on the left is the one done by Tony. It's a GM part that he's modified. And take a look at the stock part here to start with. And I don't know how well you can see that as I move the camera around. But there's still pretty good ridge left all around, especially on the bottom part of this one. So anyway, that's the stock part. And here's the one that Tony's and his guys have worked on. And you can see that the whole bore of this throttle body now is smoothed out. And there's no hard lines anymore that would cause any turbulence to airflow through this area. So anytime you can eliminate turbulent airflow, it's a good thing. The part's going to run more efficiently. So there's not a lot of differences there, but probably the differences that are there are pretty important. So anyway, that's stock and the modified part. So just briefly before we put the part back on, there's what it looks like inside the engine. Don't know if you can see it or not. Fortunate right here that it's not a gasket per se, it's a rubber O-ring, so no damage done to that taking the old part off, so putting the new one back in won't be a problem at all. So when you're doing this work, a wobble extension definitely makes things a little bit easier. Just something that'll let that socket move a little bit on the end like that one will. I think you guys all know what I'm talking about, but it's just a wobble extension. So 10 millimeter on the end of that. Well, it's a cold day here in Iowa. I don't know that I'm going to take the car out for a test drive today, but anyway, when I bought this car about 1.5 years ago now, I told myself I would not be modding it, but the throttle body is actually the second or maybe the third mod that I've done. The first mod was a pair of ACS front splash guards right here, and they got it out away from the edge of the car a little bit. And then a pair of ACS rockers as well that have really done a great job of protecting the paint. Back at this end of the car, I still use the old electrician's tape trick there on those brake ducts. Anyway, so anyway, we'll get in the car here and start it up, see if it likes the new throttle body. Okay. We will hit the start button, foot on the brake right there. Love that sound. So anyway, don't see any lights on the dash, anything like that that tell me that the car even recognizes a new part. Probably wouldn't expect to until we start getting into the throttle a little bit, but for now anyway, I guess we're going to call this installation a success, and if I get the chance, maybe I'll report back before I post this.